Hi guys, my previous video doesn't seem to upload, so I've already written out the note on regression analysis, which we're going to have a quick look at and then just discuss it. So what we've had a look at is our moving averages. Your moving average smooths out the irregularities of a time series and gives you an indication of the trend that you're looking at. A regression analysis gives you an exact formula. So most of you will remember your formula y equals mx plus c. That is a straight line formula where m is your gradient and c is your intersect. So what you've got is you define a straight line by two characteristics. The first is how steep the line is, or the gradient of the line. And the second is where does this line intersect or cut the y-axis. If you've got those two characteristics, you know exactly where a straight line is. So now what we're doing is we're using the exact same formula, except we are naming it slightly different. We're saying that the trend line is equal to B0, which is your intersect, plus B1, your gradient, x. So it's the same formula, just written a bit differently. Now, how do we calculate B0 and B1 from a time series? So that is done with the following two formulas. The first formula is to get B1, the second one is B0. Now, in order to interpret these, you need to understand how the sum of x squared, and sum of xy is being calculated. Now, most of you will remember from the previous stats module how to do these things, but I will recap it briefly. So this is a straightforward regression analysis, and what it looks like is the following. You've got your periods, so 2008, 9, 10, etc. Then you've got a y value. That is typically, in the examples that you'll see in your textbook, something like your sales or turnover or something like that you are measuring over time. So you've got your y value. In this example, it would be 60, 70, 60, 50. Then what you do is you add a x value. Now, because your period could be days, years, months, quarters, semi-annually, whatever you want it to be, or whatever the analysis is, your periods could be anything. So in order to normalize it mathematically, what we do is we give it a number. So we say that is period 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we give an integer value to each period, because this could be almost anything. So first we've got the y, second we've got the x, which is basically just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 integer values of each period, and then we start doing some table work. First step is to calculate x squared. Now, guys, this is not very complex. All you do is you take x and you square it. So 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, and so on. So 5 would be 25, 6 would be 36 for each period. So that is step 1, step 2, and then step 3 is to calculate xy. Now, how do we calculate xy? Is we just say x multiplied by y. So 1 times 60 is 60. 2 times 70 is 140. 3 times 60 is 180, and 4 times 50 is 200. So you multiply them, and then what you do is you total all of these together. So you take the sum of all of the x's, the sum of all of the x squares, and the sum of the xy. And these values you then use and plug back into your two formulas. These two formulas are in your formula sheet, so I'm not going to go into detail on the exact formulas, but you will have to have a look at it. So n is your number of periods or your sample size. So here we've got 3, but theoretically more. So the number of periods you've got is n. Sum of xy is the sum of xy. Sum of x is the sum of x. Sum of y is the sum of y, and so on. Be cautious on this part. You will see it's in brackets. It's the sum of x squared, not the sum of x squared. So it's this value squared. Okay, so guys, that's the table work. You need to know that they can ask you this question in one of two ways: for a lot of marks where they expect you to do the table work, or for half of those marks if they want you to use your calculator. So I'm using a Casio, very similar to most of your calculators. How do we do a straight line regression analysis on this calculator? First you go mode, you go to stat, and then you'll see that it gives you a similar formula. And the difference is it's not B0 and B1, it's A and B. So you see that formula on number 2 is the exact same formula as there. So then you click number 2, and then it expects of you to complete this table in there. So your x values would be 1, 2, 3, and your y values would be 60, 70, 60. And then you can calculate what you need from there. Okay, guys, so that's how you enter it into your calculator, and then you can say, okay, what is my A value? Your A value is 63, and what is my B value? Your B value is 0. Okay, guys, so that's how you calculate it on your Casio. But most of you have done these calculations before, so you should be comfortable with it. Next up, we will be looking at making a forecast or a prediction into the future.